a glimpse into the superstitions of Victorian England. Welcome, dear viewer, to another enchanting journey through the enigmatic corridors of history. Today, we venture into the often overlooked world of peculiar superstitions that thrived during the Victorian era in England. So find a cozy spot, perhaps with a warm cup of tea, and allow your imagination to drift back to a time of horse-drawn carriages, gas-lit streets, and an ever-present fascination with the mystical and the macabre. Picture yourself in Victorian England, a time of great change and progress, where science and industry were making giant leaps forward. Yet, amidst this age of enlightenment, the whispers of old beliefs and eerie tales continued to weave their way through daily life. The Victorians, with their curious blend of scientific curiosity and superstitious fear, embraced a multitude of practices to ward off bad luck and ensure good fortune. Our journey begins with one of the most intriguing aspects of Victorian superstition, the belief in omens and signs. The Victorians were particularly attuned to the idea that the universe was constantly sending signals about the future. In this era, a black cat crossing your path was seen as a dreadful harbinger of bad luck, a belief that has endured in various cultures to this day. However, in Victorian England, the appearance of a black cat could also be seen as a sign of good fortune, depending on the circumstances surrounding the encounter. It was a time when interpretation of these omens could swing both ways, often influenced by personal belief and local traditions. Imagine walking down a cobblestone street and noticing a snake slithering across your path. In Victorian superstition, snakes were associated with deceit and danger, and encountering one was considered a stark warning of impending treachery. But if you were to witness a white horse, it was seen as a symbol of purity and protection, offering reassurance that good luck was on your horizon. These interpretations of animal appearances highlight the duality of Victorian superstitions, where the same sign could carry both positive and negative connotations. Next, let us delve into the realm of dreams. The Victorian fascination with the dream world was profound, as dreams were often considered messages from the subconscious or even prophetic visions. Dreaming of teeth falling out was particularly ominous, believed to predict the death of a loved one, casting a somber shadow over the dreamer's waking life. On the other hand, dreams of weddings were imbued with joy, predicting prosperity and happiness for the dreamer. The Victorians kept detailed dream journals, hoping to decipher the cryptic messages their subconscious mind wove during the night. As we move deeper into the labyrinth of Victorian superstitions, we encounter the topic of death and mourning, subjects that occupied a significant space in the Victorian psyche. The Victorians had a complex relationship with death, viewing it as both a natural transition and a mysterious journey into the unknown. This fascination gave rise to numerous superstitions surrounding death and funerals. For example, it was customary to cover mirrors in the house after a death to prevent the deceased spirit from becoming trapped within the glass. Seeing one's reflection in a mirror during a period of mourning was believed to be an invitation for death to come and claim another life. Superstitions surrounding funerals were equally intricate. It was considered essential to halt clocks at the time of death to mark the passing of time for the deceased, and leaving them running was thought to bring bad luck to the living. This act was a poignant reminder of the transient nature of life and the Victorians' desire to honor and respect the dead. Furthermore, carrying the deceased out of their home feet first was a practice designed to prevent the spirit from looking back and beckoning others to follow them into the afterlife. Victorian England was also a time when the use of charms and talismans was prevalent, as people sought physical objects imbued with protective powers. One particularly popular charm was the lucky horseshoe, often hung above doorways to ward off evil spirits and misfortune. The open end of the horseshoe was traditionally placed upward to catch and hold good luck, a practice that continues in various forms today. Similarly, carrying a rabbit's foot was believed to bring good fortune, a superstition that has its roots in ancient rituals and continued to hold sway during the Victorian era. Let's pause for a moment and consider the significance of these superstitions. In an age of rapid development and discovery, why did these beliefs continue to flourish? The answer lies in the human need for comfort and control in an uncertain world. Superstitions provided a sense of agency, allowing individuals to influence outcomes in their favor, or at least believe they could. For the Victorians, a society steeped in class divisions and facing the profound challenges of industrialization, these beliefs offered solace, continuity, and a connection to the past. As we conclude this section of our exploration into Victorian superstitions, you might find yourself reflecting on the superstitions present in your own life. They might not involve covering mirrors or stopping clocks, but perhaps they manifest in other ways, like a favorite charm bracelet or a particular morning routine you adhere to for good luck. These rituals, whether born from tradition or personal habit, continue to offer comfort and a semblance of control in our modern lives. Join us next time as we delve further into the peculiar superstitions of Victorian England, exploring the beliefs that shaped a unique period in history. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and may good fortune follow you until we meet again. Unraveling Victorian superstitions and their origins. As you settle into a cozy corner, perhaps with a steaming cup of tea in hand, let's delve deeper into the fascinating world of Victorian superstitions. The Victorian era, a time when science was beginning to unravel the mysteries of the natural world, was paradoxically also a period steeped in mystical beliefs and practices that were often bizarre yet captivating. Join us as we explore more of these peculiar superstitions, uncovering the stories and beliefs that shaped the daily lives of the people living in 19th century England. The peculiarity of mirrors. In Victorian England, mirrors were not just decorative objects. They were believed to possess powerful and mysterious properties. It was commonly thought that mirrors could capture a part of the soul. This belief likely stemmed from older folklore and mythology, but it was deeply entrenched in Victorian culture. It was customary to cover mirrors in the house of someone who had recently died. The belief was that the soul of the deceased could become trapped in the mirror's reflective surface, unable to pass into the afterlife. This practice was a way of ensuring a safe passage for the spirit, preventing it from lingering in the realm of the living. The superstition didn't stop at death. Victorians also believed that breaking a mirror would lead to 7 years of bad luck, a notion still familiar to many of us today. The origin of this belief is thought to be the idea that a mirror was a reflection not just of one's physical appearance, but also of one's soul. Damaging the mirror was akin to damaging the soul, and the 7 years of ill fortune were considered the time it would take for the soul to heal and renew itself fully. The language of flowers. During the Victorian era, flowers were not just appreciated for their beauty and fragrance. They carried symbolic meanings and messages, a practice known as florography. This Victorian language of flowers allowed people to express feelings that societal norms might have otherwise suppressed. Each flower held a specific meaning, from love and admiration to sorrow and rejection. For example, the red rose, then as now, symbolized deep love and passion. A yellow rose, on the other hand, could signify jealousy or infidelity, while a white rose was associated with purity and innocence. Therefore, the simple act of gifting someone a bouquet was an intricate dance of messages and meanings, allowing individuals to convey complex emotions without uttering a single word. The power attributed to these floral messages was profound, and misinterpreting them could lead to misunderstandings or even scandal. This practice reflects the Victorian era's fascination with symbolism and its penchant for complex social codes and practices. Omens' importance, the role of animals. Animals also played a significant role in Victorian superstitions, often seen as omens or messengers. Cats, especially black ones, were a particular focus. While today a black cat crossing your path might be seen as a sign of bad luck, in Victorian England, the interpretations were more nuanced. Some believed that a black cat was a symbol of good fortune or a protector against evil spirits, especially if the cat chose to live in your home. However, if a black cat turned away from you, it was considered a sign of misfortune. Birds, too, were seen as harbingers of fate. A common superstition held that if a bird flew into your house, it was an omen of death. This belief likely had its origins in older European folklore, where birds were often associated with the soul and the transition between life and death. Crows and ravens, with their dark feathers and mournful calls, were particularly feared as portents of doom, while a robin sighting was thought to bring luck and happiness. The mystical power of numbers. Numbers have always held a certain mystical significance, and the Victorians were no exception in their fascination with numerology. The number 13, for instance, was considered highly unlucky, a superstition that persists in many cultures today. This belief may have roots in religious tradition, such as the Last Supper's 13 attendees, or it may simply be an example of humanity's enduring tendency to find patterns and meaning in numbers. Conversely, the number 7 was often seen as lucky or sacred, possibly because of its frequent appearance in religious texts and its mathematical uniqueness, a prime number that cannot be easily divided. This positive association with 7 meant that it appeared frequently in Victorian culture, from the 7 days of the week to the belief that the seventh son of a seventh son would possess mystical powers or healing abilities. The unseen forces of protection and luck. Amulets and charms were popular in Victorian England, offering protection against all manner of misfortune and ill fortune. The lucky rabbit's foot, a superstition that has endured to the present day, was believed to ward off evil and bring good luck to its owner. This belief likely originated from older Celtic traditions, where rabbits were considered magical creatures due to their burrowing habits, which connected them to the underworld. Another common protective charm was the horseshoe, often nailed above doorways. With its open end pointing upwards, the horseshoe was said to catch and hold good luck. The tradition of using iron to ward off evil spirits, possibly because it was seen as a robust, indestructible material, further reinforced this superstition. As we pause on our journey through the enigmatic world of Victorian superstitions, it's clear that these beliefs, no matter how peculiar, provided comfort and understanding in a rapidly changing world. They connected people to their history, their community, and their own fears and hopes, forming a tapestry of tradition and imagination that still fascinates us today. Stay tuned as we continue to explore these captivating beliefs and the ways they shaped the lives and hearts of the Victorian people in Ma. Until then, may your path be free of black cats and broken mirrors. The telling whispers of death omens. As you settle deeper into the velvety embrace of Victorian England's curious customs, let us gently unfurl the shadowy veils that Cleara's morbid yet fascinating superstitions revolving around death omens. These beliefs, intricate as the lace of a mourning veil, speak of a time when the mysteries of life and death were woven tightly into the fabric of daily existence. Imagine, if you will, the flickering candlelit halls of a Victorian home, where every creak and murmur of the floorboards could send a shiver down the spine. In this atmosphere, death was not a distant specter, but a constant companion. It is no surprise, then, that the Victorians were attuned to the whispers of what they believed were premonitions of the inevitable. One particularly chilling superstition was the belief in the corpse candle. This eerie phenomenon was thought to appear as a floating light, sometimes seen in the dark of night, meandering along paths to the churchyard. It was said to herald an impending death, tracing the very route a funeral procession would soon follow. Picture the quiet countryside, where these ghostly lights would dance above the mist-laden moors, leaving villagers to wonder whose time had come. Equally unsettling was the superstition surrounding the presence of the death watch beetle, an unassuming creature that nonetheless struck fear into the hearts of many. Its rhythmic tapping within the walls was believed to be a harbinger of death. In a world before insecticides and modern building techniques, the sound of this beetle's tapping was not uncommon, yet its presence became imbued with dread, causing families to pause and consider their mortality. Curiously, even the natural world was seen as an oracle of doom, with certain animals cast as unwilling heralds of death. Black dogs, for instance, were often associated with malevolent forces and considered ominous. Spotting one in the dead of night was thought to be a portent of imminent death, while the hoot of an owl near a house was believed to predict someone's demise within. In literature and lore, these creatures became symbols of the supernatural, their appearances shrouded in fear and mystery. Then there was the tradition of turning the chairs to the wall after a funeral. This practice was meant to prevent the recently departed from returning to sit at the family table. It speaks to the pervasive belief in restless spirits and the thin veil separating the living from the dead. Imagine a dining room, chairs solemnly facing the walls, a quiet testament to the hope that the departed found peace in the afterlife. Another intriguing belief was the notion of stopping the clock. Upon the death of a household member, clocks were often stopped at the precise moment of death. This act was thought to halt time for the deceased and prevent bad luck from lingering in the home. It was a tangible manifestation of the desire to pause and honor a life that had just transitioned to another realm. In the same vein, the practice of covering mirrors with cloth after a death was meant to prevent the soul of the deceased from becoming trapped in the reflective surface. Mirrors held a mystical quality, seen as gateways between worlds, and their concealment was a protective measure, shielding both the living and the departed from misfortune. Yet, not all death omens were grounded in gloom. Some offered a glimmer of hope in the face of loss. Consider the belief that a bird entering a house was a sign that a soul was departing or had departed. While initially startling, this omen carried a bittersweet comfort, suggesting the soul's gentle flight toward the afterlife, free from the mortal plane's burdens. In this world of articulated fears and hopes, where every flutter of wings or tap on the wall was laden with meaning, the Victorians maintained a complex relationship with death. Their superstitions, though sometimes dark, also provided a framework for understanding and coping with the inevitable. They offered a means to communicate with the unknown, to search for patterns amidst chaos, and to find solace in shared beliefs. As you reflect on these peculiar customs, imagine the quiet rustle of a Victorian garden at dusk, where nightfall brings both a chill and a sense of wonder. These superstitions, peculiar and poignant, serve as a reminder of the era's rich tapestry of beliefs, woven with threads of hope, fear, and an ever-present curiosity about what lies beyond. And so our journey through the peculiar superstitions of Victorian England guides us ever deeper into the heart of a time when the boundaries between the known and the unknown were both respected and revered, casting long, enigmatic shadows across the candlelit paths of history. Superstitions surrounding dreams and nighttime rituals. Welcome back, dear traveler, to our exploration of the peculiar superstitions that wove a mystical tapestry through the lives of those residing in Victorian England. Having journeyed through the realms of omens and beliefs associated with the physical world, it's time to dim the lights and slip into the ethereal world of dreams and nighttime rituals. As the sun set over the smoky rooftops of Victorian cities and the gentle glow of gas lamps illuminated cobbled streets, the boundary between the seen and unseen grew thin. It was in this transition from day to night that the Victorian mind found itself most susceptible to the whispers of superstition. Imagine, if you will, the moment of drifting into sleep. For the Victorians, this was not merely a biological necessity, but a sacred passage into the dream realm, a place where the veil between worlds was at its most diaphanous. Dreams were considered omens, portals to the future, and reflections of one's deepest fears and desires. Interpreting them became an art form in itself, and many adhered to dream dictionaries which translated nocturnal visions into predictions and advice. One widely held belief was that dreams occurring on certain nights bore particular significance. Dreams on Christmas Eve, for instance, were seen as prophetic. They might reveal the future or provide insights into personal relationships or looming decisions. Valentine's Eve held similar power. Unmarried women were advised to place bay leaves under their pillows, hoping to dream of their future spouse. This practice was not merely a quaint tradition, but a fervent hope that a glimpse of true love was within their grasp. Entering the dream world required its own set of rituals. Nighttime was a vulnerable period, and a variety of practices were employed to ensure protection from malevolent spirits and ill omens. A popular custom was the placing of a horseshoe above the bedroom door, believed to ward off evil spirits. The horseshoe had to be hung with the open end upwards to catch luck. Another protective measure was the use of witch bottles, jars filled with hair, nails, and other personal items, then buried near the entrance of the home to trap any malevolent forces. As you drift into this dreamlike narrative, picture the dim glow of a softly burning candle accompanying you through the corridors of sleep. The Victorians held that snuffing out a candle with a single breath invited good dreams, while a flickering flame might indicate the presence of an unseen visitor from the spiritual realm. This belief in the interplay of light and shadow deepened the mystery of the night, as did their conviction that the hour of one's sleep influenced the nature of their dreams. The saying, 1 hour's sleep before midnight is worth 2 after, was more than practical advice. It was thought that the earlier hours of slumber were more spiritually pure, more insulating against the disturbed ancestors of the waking world. In addition to these nocturnal customs, the Victorians were fascinated by the concept of sleep paralysis, often described in horrified whispers as a visitation by the old hag. This was seen as a supernatural assault, a demonic presence pressing down on the chest of the sleeper, rendering them unable to move or speak. It is easy to imagine how this terrifying experience fueled countless stories and superstitions, casting a sinister shadow over the peaceful world of sleep. The fear of the night was not only spiritual, but also practical. The dark hours were fraught with potential danger, both real and imagined. To counteract this, certain rituals were maintained to ensure safety. Knives, for instance, were never left blade up, as it was believed that doing so would invite violence or discord. Similarly, windows were often barred or closed tight, not only to keep out the chill, but to prevent wandering spirits from gaining entry. As we navigate these Victorian nighttime beliefs and practices, it becomes clear that they reflect a society in flux, deeply rooted in both tradition and the unknown possibilities of the future. Dreams offered a means to explore the subconscious, to glimpse fate, and to navigate the mysteries of life's journey. They provided the Victorians with a framework to understand their place in the cosmos, blending ancient rituals with the burgeoning curiosity of a new era. As we draw this section of our exploration to a close, allow the gentle echo of these superstitions to lull you into contemplation. The Victorians, with their intricate dance of reason and mysticism, remind us that even in an age of innovation, there is a persistent allure to the unknown, a fascination with the forces that might guide our dreams and destinies. So as you prepare to leave this dreamscape behind, take with you a fragment of Victorian wonder, a belief in the unseen, in the power of dreams to reveal and conceal, and in the rituals that bridge our waking and sleeping worlds. The superstitions of Victorian death and mourning. In the somber gaslit streets of Victorian England, where fog curled like spectral fingers around the cobblestones, the approach to death and mourning was steeped in a brew of superstition and ceremony. During these times, when the veil between the living and the dead seemed most delicate, Victorians adhered to an intricate tapestry of beliefs designed to protect the living and honor the departed. As you step into this world, imagine the sound of a distant church bell tolling, and let us explore the peculiar superstitions that governed these final rites. Death was a constant companion in the Victorian era, its presence a shadow that loomed over everyday life. With medical advancements yet to catch up with the many ailments of the time, mortality rates were high. This ever-present specter of death cultivated a rich culture of superstitions surrounding the end of life. One of the most prevalent beliefs was that the soul's journey from the earthly realm needed careful guidance to avoid spiritual entrapment. The first of these superstitions centered around the clock. It was believed that clocks should be stopped at the exact moment of death. This act was thought to halt time, preserving the deceased's moment of passing and preventing the soul from becoming confused or lost in its transition to the afterlife. In the intimacy of the parlor, curtains would be drawn, not only as a sign of respect, but also to prevent the spirit from lingering in the home. Mirrors, too, were covered with heavy cloth. The superstitious believed that mirrors could capture the soul, trapping it in its reflective surface, unable to move on to its eternal rest. An often overlooked but curious practice involved the positioning of the body. The deceased was laid out with feet facing the door, a symbolic gesture to ensure that the spirit could leave the house without feeling trapped, thus avoiding any temptation to remain among the living. This positioning also served as a deterrent to evil spirits, who might otherwise attempt to claim the soul if it lingered too long. The Victorian era was steeped in elaborate mourning customs, largely influenced by Queen Victoria's own extended mourning for Prince Albert. These customs were more than mere tradition; they carried superstitions of their own. Widows were expected to wear mourning garb for a prescribed period, often up to 2 years, and failure to adhere to these societal norms was thought to invite bad luck or disrespect from the spirit world. The color black, associated with mourning, was believed to ward off malevolent spirits, protecting the wearer from harm. The use of mourning jewelry was not merely a fashion statement, but an act of spiritual significance. Locks of hair from the deceased were often encased in pendants or rings, serving as a tangible connection to the departed and a form of protection against the supernatural. These mementos were believed to carry the sense of the loved one, keeping their spirit close but at bay, allowing the mourner to grieve without fear of spiritual retribution. Funeral processions, too, were guided by superstition. Mourners would walk slowly and solemnly to the graveyard, taking care to ensure that the pallbearers did not trip or falter. A stumble was seen as a bad omen, an indication that another death might soon follow. Once at the graveyard, the coffin was always carried feet first. This practice, thought to prevent the spirit from looking back into the house and longing to return, ensured that the deceased was led peacefully to their final rest. The grave itself, a place of eternal rest, was not immune to superstition. Placing a sprig of rosemary on the coffin, or planting it at the grave, was thought to symbolize remembrance and protection. The Victorians believed that rosemary could shield the grave from evil spirits and keep the deceased soul at peace. Additionally, mourners would often place coins on the eyes of the dead, a practice rooted in ancient traditions, symbolizing payment for safe passage to the afterlife. As night fell, another layer of superstition shrouded the mourning practices. It was a common belief that if a dog howled in the night near a house of mourning, it was an omen of death, a sign that the spirit of the deceased was restless or that another death was imminent. To counteract this, some families would place a piece of bread on the chest of the deceased, a symbolic offering to appease the spirit and ensure its peaceful departure. In this dance between the living and the dead, the Victorians navigated a world where superstition offered comfort and structure in the face of the unknown. These beliefs and rituals, though peculiar to modern sensibilities, provided a framework for understanding and coping with loss. They offered a sense of control over the uncontrollable, a way to ensure that the departed would find peace and the living could continue their journey without fear of supernatural retribution. As you reflect on these peculiar superstitions of Victorian death and mourning, consider how these rituals, steeped in both fear and respect, reveal much about the human need to find meaning in the face of mortality. In embracing these traditions, the Victorians forged a connection between worlds, a delicate balance between honoring the past and facing the inevitable passage of time. The mystical influence of Victorian gardens and their superstitions. Welcome, dear viewer, to another tranquil exploration of the peculiar superstitions of Victorian England. Today we delve into the enchanting world of Victorian gardens, those lush sanctuaries brimming with all manner of superstitions. As you settle in, let your mind wander through time to a world where the very earth beneath your feet was believed to hold secrets and whispers from another realm. Imagine stepping into a Victorian garden, where every plant, every leaf, and every delicate bloom seems to resonate with mystical energies. The Victorians, with their penchant for the ethereal and the mysterious, often infused their gardens with an array of superstitious beliefs, turning these serene spaces into places of both beauty and mystery. To begin, let us explore the belief in plant symbolism, or what the Victorians referred to as the language of flowers. In this era, it was not uncommon for people to communicate their emotions and intentions through carefully chosen blooms. Each flower held a special meaning, and these meanings often carried superstitious weight. For instance, planting rosemary in your garden was thought to bring about remembrance and protect the household from evil spirits. A sprig of rosemary was more than a fragrant herb. It was a guardian, watching over the home with an unseen yet powerful presence. Consider also the role of foxgloves, those tall, elegant spikes of purple blooms that graced many a Victorian garden. While admired for their beauty, foxgloves were also associated with the fairy realm. It was believed that these flowers served as gloves for fairies, and to harm a foxglove plant was to risk offending the fairy folk. A garden with foxgloves became a place of enchantment, where the veil between worlds was thinner, inviting both blessings and curses depending on how one treated these mystical flowers. In addition to flowers, trees played a significant role in Victorian garden superstitions. The elder tree, for instance, was revered and feared in equal measure. Planting an elder tree near your home was thought to bring protection and prosperity, but chopping one down could invite disaster. It was believed that spirits dwelled in elder trees, and these spirits might seek vengeance if their home was destroyed. Therefore, the simple act of tending to or cutting an elder tree carried with it the weight of supernatural consequence. Let us not forget the role of garden gnomes, those whimsical figures that began appearing in English gardens during the Victorian era. While today they may seem nothing more than charming decorations, in Victorian times these gnomes were thought to be protectors of the garden. They were believed to come alive at night, warding off evil spirits and mischievous fairies. Having a gnome in your garden was akin to having a vigilant guardian, ensuring that the plants, and by extension the household, remained safe and paros. The Victorians also held strong beliefs about the timing and manner of planting. Moon gardening, as it was known, was a practice rooted in superstition and astrology. It was believed that planting certain seeds during specific phases of the moon would yield better results. For instance, planting under a waxing moon was thought to encourage growth and abundance, while a waning moon was associated with pruning and weeding, as it was seen as a time for diminishing and reduction. This practice tied the earthly activity of gardening to the celestial dance of the moon, imbuing the act of cultivation with a sense of cosmic significance. The superstitions surrounding Victorian gardens extended even to the act of walking through these verdant spaces. A common belief was that if you encountered a toad or frog in your garden, it was a sign of good fortune, especially if the creature hopped towards you. Conversely, seeing a snake could be interpreted as a bad omen, suggesting deceit or danger lurking nearby. These creatures, whether hopping or slithering, were seen as messengers, their presence a subtle nudge from the universe regarding the fortunes of those who tended the garden. Lastly, there was a profound belief in the power of garden herbs beyond their culinary uses. Herbs like lavender and thyme were not only prized for their fragrance and flavor, but also for their supposed supernatural properties. Lavender, in particular, was thought to bring peace and tranquility, warding off evil when grown near the home or hung by the door. Thyme, on the other hand, was associated with courage and strength, and it was often planted in gardens to encourage bravery in the household. And so, as we stroll through the lanes of a Victorian garden, we find ourselves immersed in a world where every plant, every creature, and every decorative element holds a story, a superstition, a whisper from the past. These gardens were more than just places of beauty. They were living tapestries of belief and tradition, each one unique and yet universally connected by the threads of Victorian superstition. As you let these stories settle into your mind, imagine creating your own garden, a space where you might infuse your own beliefs and dreams, a sanctuary where nature and the mystical dance hand in hand. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the peculiar superstitions of Victorian gardens. We hope you come away with a renewed sense of wonder for the mysterious and the magical. The curious case of Victorian dream interpretation. Welcome to our exploration through the peculiar superstitions of Victorian England, where dreams were not merely phantoms of the night, but powerful portents and guides that could shape the waking world. Imagine yourself nestled in a cozy armchair, a crackling fire nearby, as we delve into the Victorian fascination with the enigmatic realm of dreams. In an era marked by rapid industrialization and scientific discovery, the Victorians found solace and intrigue in the mysterious language of dreams, believing that these nocturnal visions were rich with symbolism and insight. The Victorians approached dream interpretation with a seriousness that would rival any scientific endeavor of their time, treating dreams as coded messages from the unconscious mind or even from the divine. In Victorian England, it was not uncommon for individuals to keep detailed dream journals, meticulously recording each night's visions in the hope of uncovering hidden meanings and prophecies. Some would even consult professional dream interpreters who, with a flourish of mystique, would unravel the dense tapestry of dreams, revealing what they believed were significant truths about one's life and future. One particularly captivating aspect of this culture was the belief in prophetic dreams. Victorians held that certain dreams could reveal future events, acting as warnings or beacons of hope. For instance, dreaming of a wedding was often thought to predict a death, while dreaming of a funeral could suggest an upcoming marriage. These inversions of expected meanings highlighted the complex and often paradoxical nature of dream interpretation in Victorian thought. The Victorians were also fascinated by the idea that dreams could be influenced by physical surroundings and the state of one's health. For example, it was believed that sleeping with one's feet uncovered could lead to nightmares. Similarly, certain foods consumed before bed, such as cheese or rich meats, were thought to provoke vivid dreams and restless nights. This connection between the physical and the psychological provided endless fodder for discussion and speculation among the curious minds of the era. Beyond mere curiosity, dreams held a profound moral significance for the Victorians. They perceived dreams as reflections of one's moral standing, believing that dreams filled with virtuous deeds indicated a person's goodness, while those filled with sinful actions served as warnings to mend one's ways. This moral dimension added a layer of ethical introspection, encouraging individuals to scrutinize their dreams as they would their conscience. The Victorian obsession with dreams also extended into the realm of literature and art. Writers and poets of the time, such as Charles Dickens and Lewis Carroll, often woven dreamlike sequences into their works, using the fluidity and surreal nature of dreams to explore deeper themes of identity, morality, and society. These literary creations mirrored the Victorians' own fascination with the subconscious, blending reality with the fantastical to captivate and inspire their audience. The overlap between dreams and the supernatural further entwined with the Victorian belief in spiritualism and the afterlife. Many Victorians believed that dreams could serve as a bridge between the living and the dead, offering a space where spirits could communicate with the living. This belief fed into the era's wider fascination with seances and the occult, creating a rich tapestry of superstition and spirituality that permeated Victorian society. Despite the plethora of dream dictionaries and interpreters available, interpretations were far from uniform, often varying greatly depending on one's social background, religious beliefs, and personal experiences. This diversity in interpretation only fueled the Victorian passion for dreams, as individuals were free to find meanings that resonated uniquely with their own lives and circumstances. The enduring legacy of Victorian dream interpretation is evident today in the continued allure of dreams as a subject of psychological study and artistic inspiration. Although modern interpretations may be less rooted in superstition, the fascination with the hidden messages of our dreams remains a universal human experience, connecting us to our Victorian ancestors in the ever-ongoing quest to decipher the mysteries of the mind. As we bring this section to a close, imagine yourself setting down your pen after an evening of dream journaling, the fire's glow softly dwindling, and the whispers of the Victorian age still lingering in the air. The dreams you will encounter tonight, whether vivid or fleeting, hold the promise of secrets and revelations, just as they did for the inquisitive souls of the Victorian era. Thank you for joining us on this dream-filled journey through Victorian England. We hope you've enjoyed this glimpse into the peculiar and enchanting world of Victorian superstitions. Until next time, may your dreams be as intriguing and mysterious as those of the Victorians who revered them. The superstition of mirrors and their mystical reflections. Welcome to our next intriguing exploration into the peculiar superstitions that permeated the lives of those in Victorian England. In this section, we delve into the mysterious and often eerie beliefs surrounding something as commonplace as mirrors. Imagine yourself stepping back in time, wandering the dimly lit, gaslit parlors adorned with ornate, gilded mirrors that were far more than mere decorations. They were portals, gateways to the unknown, holding the power to reveal truths, foretell destinies, and perhaps even ensnare souls. Victorians were a paradoxical lot. On one hand, they were embracing rapid technological and scientific advancements, yet on the other, they clung passionately to long-standing myths and superstitions. Mirrors, with their ability to capture perfect reflections, were naturally subject to an array of fascinating superstitions. One of the more prevalent beliefs was that mirrors held the ability to trap souls, a notion that likely contributed to the pervasive practice of covering mirrors in the house following a death. Victorians feared that the soul of the departed might become trapped in the reflective glass, unable to move on to the afterlife. To prevent this, mirrors were either veiled or turned towards the wall until the deceased was safely buried, thus ensuring their spirit could journey onwards unimpeded. Moreover, the superstition that breaking a mirror would bring 7 years of bad luck was not just about the inconvenience or expense of replacing the object. To the Victorians, mirrors were thought to reflect more than just the physical form. They were believed to mirror the soul itself. Thus, to shatter a mirror was considered a dire omen, fragmenting not only the image, but also the soul it reflected. But what about those who dared to gaze into these beguiling surfaces in search of answers? Mirror gazing, or scrying, was a form of divination practiced by those who claimed the ability to see beyond the physical realm. The Victorians had a penchant for the mystical and the occult, and many considered mirrors to be an ideal medium for communing with spirits or foretelling the future. A practitioner might dim the lights, creating a hushed, shadowy atmosphere, and peer intently into a mirror's depths, hoping to perceive visions of things yet to come or to receive messages from the other side. In addition to these individual practices, group seances often utilized mirrors as a tool to connect with spirits. The reflective surfaces were thought to amplify energy and serve as conduits for spiritual communication. Participants might gather in a darkened room, hands clasped, while their host or medium performed rituals to summon spectral voices, occasionally using mirrors strategically placed to facilitate the encounter. Whether true believers or mere enthusiasts of the supernatural spectacle, attendees felt the charged atmosphere, as if the very air vibrated with unseen forces. Mirrors also played a role in the domestic sphere, particularly concerning romance and courtship. One popular superstition promised that if an unmarried woman gazed into a mirror at midnight on Halloween, she would see the face of her future husband reflected back. This ritual likely added an air of excitement and hope to the evening, as young women giggled and dared one another to peer into the glass, eager for a glimpse of what fate had in store. For those who held faith in these practices, mirrors were indeed magical objects, capable of revealing secrets and guiding one's destiny. Yet not all associations with mirrors were filled with awe or delight. The shadows cast by superstition also bred fear and caution. The dread of seeing an unexpected reflection or a shadowy figure that ought not to be there could send chills down the spine, a manifest reminder of the thin veil separating the known from the unknown. As we leave behind the haunted glances and whispered secrets caught in the reflective depths, consider how these enchanting yet eerie beliefs shaped the character of Victorian society. Mirrors, those silent witnesses to daily life, became emblematic of the era's contradictions, both a symbol of introspective reflection and an object of superstition and wonder. They stand as a testament to the complex interplay of science and superstition, rationality and mysticism, that defined an age simultaneously grounded in reality and captivated by the ethereal. With that, we conclude our exploration of the haunting allure and peculiar mystique of mirrors in Victorian England. In our next section, we will journey further into the realm of Victorian superstitions, uncovering more of the curious beliefs that colored the lives and imaginations of our ancestors. Until then, may your reflections be clear and your paths illuminated. The eccentricity of Victorian superstitions in the arts. As the sun sets on our journey through the peculiar superstitions of Victorian England, we find ourselves drawn to the vivid tapestry of arts and culture that defined the era. This was a time when creativity flourished under the watchful eyes of muses and specters alike, where the boundary between inspiration and superstition was as thin as a painter's canvas. Within this artistic realm, superstitions were not merely quaint beliefs, but vital forces that influenced the creative process itself. Imagine stepping into a Victorian artist's studio, where the soft glow of a gas lamp casts flickering shadows across walls adorned with half-finished canvases and sketches. In this dimly lit sanctuary, artists were said to hold superstitions as close as their brushes and palettes. One peculiar belief centered around the color green. It was considered unlucky to use this color too liberally in paintings. Green was associated with decay and death, perhaps because it was the color of fading leaves and mold. Therefore, artists exercised caution, lest their works be tainted by misfortune. But fear not, for the Victorians were nothing if not resourceful in their rituals. To ward off bad luck, artists might place a sprig of rosemary nearby, a practice that dates back to ancient times when rosemary was thought to protect against evil spirits. This aromatic herb, with its distinctive scent, was believed to purify the air and, by extension, the artist's creative vision. Writers, too, were not immune to the allure of superstition. In an era when pen met paper to craft tales of romance, mystery, and the supernatural, authors often turned to rituals to ensure their success. The act of knocking 3 times on a wooden desk before beginning to write was believed to summon the spirits of inspiration. This practice, known as touching wood, persisted as a means to invoke good fortune and fend off any lurking writer's block. Literary gatherings, or salons, as they were called, were rife with superstitious undercurrents. It was considered bad luck to recite the last lines of a poem aloud during these meetings. Such an act was thought to tempt fate, potentially leading to misfortune for the poet or their work. Instead, the final words were left unsaid, lingering in the air like an unfinished melody, tantalizing and mysterious. As we drift further into the world of performance, the theater emerges as a grand stage for Victorian superstitions. Actors, those masters of transformation, were particularly mindful of practices that might influence a show's success. One of the most enduring superstitions involved the phrase, "break a leg," commonly used to wish actors good luck. The origins of this curious phrase are shrouded in mystery, but it is believed that by wishing harm, one could trick malevolent spirits and achieve the opposite effect. Theater folk were also wary of whistling backstage. This seemingly innocent CT was thought to invite disaster. The superstition is said to have originated from the days when stagehands were often sailors who used whistles to communicate. A misplaced whistle could result in a mishap with the stage rigging, leading to chaos. Therefore, to prevent calamity, whistling was strictly prohibited behind the curtains. No exploration of Victorian superstition in the arts would be complete without a nod to the world of music. Composers and musicians, much like their literary and artistic counterparts, revered certain practices as essential to their craft. It was a common belief that an instrument, particularly a piano, should never be left open when not in use. Doing so was thought to allow spirits to tamper with the strings, causing the music to fall out of tune. To ensure harmonious melodies, musicians might perform a simple ritual before an important concert. By placing a coin under the leg of a piano, they sought to appease the spirit of Fortuna, the goddess of fortune, hoping to secure her favor for the evening's performance. This practice, though tinged with whimsy, reflects the deep-seated belief in unseen forces guiding human endeavor. As we draw the curtain on our 9th section, it's clear that Victorian superstitions in the arts were more than mere relics of a bygone era. They were vibrant threads woven into the fabric of creativity, offering both comfort and intrigue to those who dared to dream. These beliefs, with their blend of whimsy and caution, reveal a society keenly aware of the thin line between the tangible and the mystical, where every brushstroke, every note, and every word was imbued with the potential for magic. As you ponder these eccentric customs, take a moment to consider how the beliefs of the past continue to echo in our creative endeavors today. Perhaps, in our own ways, we still invoke the muses with our rituals, seeking inspiration in the whispers of history, the enchanted objects and their bewitching tales. Welcome, dear viewers, to another chapter in our exploration of the peculiar superstitions that wove the intricate and mesmerizing tapestry of Victorian England. Today, we delve into the world of enchanted objects, where everyday items were believed to hold powers beyond our comprehension, acting as both talismans of fortune and harbingers of ill will. So, settle into your favorite cozy corner, perhaps with a cup of tea in hand, as we journey into the mystique that surrounded these curious artifacts. The Victorians inhabited a world teeming with objects imbued with meaning and significance. Their society, caught in the delicate dance between the scientific advancements of the era and a profound respect for ancient lore, held tightly onto the belief that certain items were more than mere possessions. They were conduits of luck, protection, or even misfortune, and thus the age-old tradition of ascribing supernatural qualities to objects found fertile ground in the Victorian imagination. One such object was the horseshoe, an emblem of protection and prosperity. Steeped in folklore, the horseshoe's power was believed to stem from its iron composition and its crescent shape, which echoed the protective symbol of the moon. Victorians would often hang horseshoes above their doorways, open end facing upwards, to catch and contain good fortune. The very act of nailing a horseshoe to a door was seen as a ritual in itself, requiring a specific number of nails, usually 7, to unlock its full protective potential. Yet as with many superstitions, the horseshoe's power was not absolute. Its efficacy depended on its provenance. A found horseshoe was a gift of luck from the universe, while one purchased was merely an object. Furthermore, the manner in which a horseshoe was acquired could alter its potency, with those that were fortuitously stumbled upon considered especially potent. Moving from the rural fields to the bustling streets, our next enchanted item is the humble umbrella. In Victorian England, it was believed that unfurling an umbrella indoors would bring misfortune to the household. This superstition likely originated from practical concerns. An open umbrella indoors in confined spaces could easily cause accidents or damage. Yet, the belief took on a life of its own among superstitious Victorians, who feared the act could disrupt the household's harmony and invite misfortune to linger. The list of enchanted objects does not end here. Consider the humble mirror, a staple in every Victorian home. Mirrors were regarded with a mixture of fascination and trepidation. They were seen as portals to the other world, holding the power to capture and reflect the soul. Breaking a mirror was considered a grievous omen, leading to 7 years of bad luck, a belief that extended from earlier centuries. To break a mirror was to fracture one's own essence, unleashing chaos and misfortune into one's life. Victorians were also known to cover mirrors in the house of the deceased during mourning periods, preventing the soul from becoming trapped within its reflective depths. In this practice, we see an intersection of practicality and superstition, as covered mirrors also serve to maintain decorum in a house of mourning, while simultaneously appeasing the spiritual realm. The significance of mirrors is intricately tied to the belief in their reflective power to reveal truths. Victorian society, ever fond of seances and spiritual exploration, often used mirrors in scrying, a method of divination where practitioners would gaze into a reflective surface to perceive visions or messages from the beyond. Mirrors, in their ethereal beauty, acted as both a tool and a warning, a gateway to the unknown. Another captivating Victorian superstition revolved around the use of bells. Bells were more than instruments of music or symbols of celebration. They were believed to possess the power to ward off evil spirits. The clear, resounding chime of a bell was thought to disperse malevolent forces, cleansing spaces of negativity. This belief was especially potent in rituals associated with death, where bells were rung to guide departed souls safely to the afterlife and protect them from lingering specters. In this dance of sound and silence, we find the delicate interplay of belief and tradition, a testament to the Victorian endeavor to harmonize their world with the spiritual and the mystical. Bells were often tied to the feet of the deceased to ward off evil, or were rung at the end of funerals to ensure a safe passage to the other side. Lastly, let's explore the quirky superstition surrounding the humble clover. While four-leaf clovers are widely recognized as symbols of luck, the Victorians took this belief a step further. They believed that carrying a four-leaf clover upon one's person provided protection against witches and evil spirits. The rarity of the four-leaf clover made it a precious talisman, a natural amulet against the darkness that lurked in the shadows. The clover was often pressed and kept in lockets or tucked into the pages of beloved books, safeguarding the bearer with its elusive magic. In the pages of journals and diaries, these clovers silently stood guard, ensuring that the words held within were shielded from prying eyes and mischievous forces. In conclusion, the enchanted objects of Victorian England reflect the intricate interplay of fear, hope, and tradition that characterized this fascinating era. These items, whether they were horseshoes, umbrellas, mirrors, bells, or clovers, were more than mere objects. They were symbols of the enduring human desire to understand and influence the mysterious forces that govern our lives. As we close this chapter of our journey into the peculiar superstitions of Victorian England, let us remember that these beliefs, while peculiar to their time, speak to the universal human experience of seeking meaning, and protection in the world around us. Until we meet again in our next exploration, may your days be filled with curiosity and wonder. The unseen forces of Victorian England. Welcome back to our exploration of the peculiar superstitions of Victorian England, a time when the veil between the known and unknown seemed to dance with every flicker of candlelight. In this section, we delve further into the beliefs that guided everyday actions and the unseen forces that were believed to govern the lives of the Victorian populace. So, settle into your favorite chair, perhaps with a cup of steaming tea by your side, and let's embark on this fascinating journey through time. In the heart of the Victorian era, superstition was woven into the very fabric of society, a thread that connected the mundane to the mystical. While some superstitions were quaint, others carried a more ominous weight, shaping decisions and fostering a sense of control over the unpredictable nature of life. One such belief was the pervasive fear of being buried alive, a notion that haunted the Victorian imagination. This fear was not entirely unfounded, given the medical limitations of the time. To assuage these fears, individuals sometimes requested to be buried with a bell, a practice known as safety coffins. The idea was quite simple, yet deeply unsettling. If mistakenly declared dead and subsequently interred, the unfortunate soul could signal for help by ringing the bell, their cries echoing from beneath the ground. Moving from the grave to the hearth, the Victorians also had a myriad of superstitions related to the home. It was believed that certain objects could ward off evil spirits and misfortune. For instance, hanging a horseshoe over the threshold was thought to protect the inhabitants from malicious entities. The horseshoe needed to be placed with its open end facing upward to catch and hold the good luck. Mirrors, too, held a special place in Victorian superstition. It was widely believed that mirrors could capture and trap souls. As such, after a death in the household, mirrors were often covered to prevent the deceased soul from becoming ensnared in their reflective surfaces. This practice was not only a gesture of respect, but also a protection against restless spirits. Another intriguing belief pertained to the practice of touching wood, a custom still prevalent today. The Victorians believed that trees, particularly oak trees, were inhabited by spirits. By touching wood, individuals believed they could invoke protection and good fortune from these benevolent spirits, safeguarding themselves against bad luck. The fear of the supernatural extended into the night, with the belief that ghosts were most active between the hours of midnight and 1 o'clock, the witching hour. This time was thought to be when the boundary between the living and the dead was at its thinnest, allowing spirits to cross over and roam the earthly realm. This belief instilled a sense of caution and reverence, with some opting to stay indoors during these late hours. The influence of the supernatural was not limited to personal safety and domicile, but extended into the realm of romance and courtship. Victorians held a variety of superstitions about love and marriage. For example, it was considered unlucky for a bride to see her reflection in full wedding attire before the ceremony. To counteract this potential bad luck, brides often left off one item of their ensemble until the last possible moment. Additionally, the month in which a wedding took place was thought to significantly influence the couple's future happiness. June was considered the luckiest month to marry, as it was named after Juno, the Roman goddess of marriage and childbirth. Conversely, marrying in May was to invite misfortune, as the month was associated with the Roman festival of the dead, Lemuria. Superstitions even extended to the realm of newborns and children. It was a common practice to place a piece of bread and salt in the cradle of a newborn to protect them from evil spirits. This ritual symbolized sustenance and purity and was believed to guard the child from malevolent forces. Furthermore, the Victorians believed that certain omens could predict future events. Seeing a single magpie, for example, was considered an ill omen, prompting the need to recite a rhyme to ward off bad luck. 1 for sorrow, 2 for joy, 3 for a girl, 4 for a boy. This rhyme served as a method of divining future fortune or misfortune based on the number of magpies encountered. Finally, one cannot overlook the significance of dreams in Victorian superstition. Dreams were thought to be windows into the subconscious, and at times harbingers of future events. The Victorians placed great importance on interpreting dreams, believing that they provided insight into the unknown and guidance for the future. A dream of teeth falling out, for example, was considered an omen of death, while dreaming of a wedding was believed to foreshadow a funeral. As we conclude this section, it's clear that the Victorians navigated a world rich with superstition, where every shadow held a secret, and every corner whispered of the unknown. Their beliefs, while sometimes strange and bewildering, remind us of the timeless human desire to find meaning in the mysterious and the unexplainable. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of Victorian superstitions. Stay with us as we continue to uncover the captivating and often eerie beliefs of this intriguing era. Until next time, may your days be filled with wonder and your nights with peaceful dreams. A glimpse into the superstitions surrounding animals and nature in Victorian England. As you settle into a cozy nook, perhaps with a steaming cup of tea in hand, we journey deeper into the mysterious and whimsical world of Victorian England's peculiar superstitions. In this section, we turn our gaze toward the fascinating beliefs surrounding animals and elements of nature. The Victorians, ever inclined to infuse mysticism into their everyday lives, held a multitude of intriguing beliefs that connected the natural world to the realms of fortune, health, and destiny. Picture yourself walking through a quaint Victorian village, the cobblestone streets echoing with the clip-clop of horse hooves. It's a crisp morning, and the air is alive with the chatter of townsfolk. Just as you pass by a charming garden, your eye catches a glimpse of a black cat, sleek and mysterious, darting across the pathway. In this era, the appearance of such a creature was a double-edged sword. To some, particularly sailors, a black cat was a cherished talisman, believed to bestow good luck and safety upon their voyages. Families often kept a black cat at home in the hope of ensuring the safe return of their loved ones from the sea. Yet for others, a black cat crossing one's path carried darker connotations. It was thought to be an omen of misfortune, a harbinger of bad luck or even death. This duality in perception reflects the rich tapestry of superstition that wove through Victorian culture, where each belief seemed to carry its own counterbalance, a yin to its yang. As you continue your stroll, imagine the gently rustling leaves of an oak tree. In the Victorian imagination, this stately tree was more than mere wood and leaves. It was a symbol of strength and endurance. The oak was revered, and its acorns were seen as tokens of protection. Carrying an acorn was believed to ward off lightning strikes, a particularly comforting thought in an era when thunderstorms were often viewed with a sense of awe and dread. Birds also carried significant omens within their wings. For instance, the sight of a solitary magpie was seen as a bad omen, countered only by the recitation of the rhyme, 1 for sorrow, 2 for joy. Victorians would frequently salute a lone magpie to ward off its purportedly negative influence. The intricate relationship between man and bird was further exemplified by the robin, whose presence in a garden was seen as a blessing. It was believed that harming a robin would bring on a string of unfortunate events. Let us meander now to the serene countryside, where you might find yourself amidst a field of wildflowers, their vibrant colors a delightful feast for the senses. In the Victorian mind, even these blooms were not immune to superstition. Daisies were associated with innocence and purity, while the bluebell was considered a magical flower. The bluebell, with its delicate hue, was thought to summon fairies, and picking such a flower would risk inviting the mischievous antics of these ethereal beings into one's life. The natural world, with its wonders both grand and minute, was a source of both inspiration and caution for the Victorians. This was a time when medicine was still a burgeoning field, and many relied on traditional folklore to guide their understanding of health. For instance, garlic was heralded as a potent protector against illness and evil spirits. This belief was so entrenched that garlic was often hung in doorways or worn around the neck to safeguard one's home and health. As the sun dips toward the horizon, casting a golden glow on the landscape, we find ourselves standing beside a babbling brook. Water, with its life-giving properties, also held a special place in the heart of Victorian superstition. Wells, in particular, were considered sacred, often thought to be inhabited by benevolent spirits. The act of tossing a coin into a well was more than just a whimsical wish-making ritual. It was a gesture of respect and an offering to these spirits, a plea for their continued blessings and favor. To conclude our exploration of these enchanting beliefs, let us pause to consider the enduring legacy of these superstitions. While the modern world may no longer hold these views with the same credence, they offer us a captivating glimpse into the minds of our Victorian ancestors. Their reverence for the natural world, their intricate web of beliefs, and their imaginative interpretations of everyday encounters continue to inspire and tantalize our collective imagination. As you mull over these peculiar superstitions, perhaps looking out of your own window at the world beyond, allow yourself to be enchanted by the magic of nature. Consider the stories that have been passed down through generations and how they shape our understanding of the world today. Whether you choose to believe or simply enjoy the tales, these Victorian superstitions remind us of the enduring human desire to find meaning in the world around us. Thank you for joining me on this delightful journey through Victorian England's superstitions. Your curiosity and open-mindedness are a testament to the timeless wonder of discovery. Until our next adventure, may your days be filled with curiosity and awe. The eccentric beliefs surrounding mirrors. Welcome, dear viewers, to another captivating segment on the peculiar superstitions that wove their way through the tapestry of Victorian England. In this section, we delve into the mysterious world of mirrors, a household object that bore more significance than simply reflecting one's appearance. During the Victorian era, mirrors were often seen as portals to the supernatural, laden with omens and warnings that could dictate the fate of both the living and the departed. Imagine, if you will, the dimly lit drawing rooms of Victorian homes, where the flickering light of a candle brought a sense of warmth and coziness. In these rooms, mirrors were cautiously regarded, positioned with care, and sometimes even covered to ward off any malevolent energies they might harbor. One of the most intriguing superstitions revolved around the idea that mirrors could trap souls. The belief was that if a person died within a house, all the mirrors should be promptly covered. Failure to do so might result in the deceased soul becoming ensnared within the reflective surfaces, unable to pass into the afterlife. This superstition was so prevalent that it became a common practice during funerals to ensure all mirrors were draped in dark fabric, allowing the soul to move on without hindrance. For those who adhered to these traditions, the act of covering mirrors was a solemn rite, a final gesture of protection and respect for the departed. Another fascinating aspect of mirror superstitions was their association with divination and prophecy. During the Victorian era, a practice known as mirror scrying gained popularity among those with a penchant for the mystical. The process involved gazing into a mirror, often in a dimly lit room, until visions or messages from the spiritual realm appeared. It was believed that mirrors could reveal future events, unveil hidden truths, or even allow one to communicate with spirits. This practice was not only limited to fortune tellers and mystics. Many ordinary Victorians would attempt mirror scrying during special occasions or when seeking answers to pressing questions. The notion that a simple household object could serve as a window into the unknown only added to the allure and mystique of these beliefs. The fear of breaking a mirror also played a significant role in Victorian superstitions. The well-known adage of 7 years bad luck was not merely a trivial warning, but an ominous threat that many Victorians took seriously. The breaking of a mirror was believed to shatter not only the object, but also the reflection of the soul within it. This symbolic fracture was thought to bring misfortune, as it disrupted the harmony of one's spiritual self. To counteract this unfortunate turn of events, various remedies were suggested. One popular solution was to bury the broken pieces in moonlight, a ritual that was intended to cleanse the soul and ward off the impending bad luck. In other instances, it was recommended to grind the shards into powder and scatter them across running water. Such actions were thought to appease the spiritual forces, thus restoring balance and averting the misfortune that loomed ominously overhead. Perhaps one of the most enchanting beliefs connected to mirrors was their role in romantic superstitions. Victorians, ever fascinated by the mysteries of love, devised various rituals involving mirrors to uncover the identity of future spouses. A popular practice involved young women standing before a mirror at midnight, holding a candle in one hand and a piece of apple in the other. While chanting an incantation, they would peel the apple in one continuous strip, tossing it over their shoulder. As they gazed into the mirror, it was said that the face of their future husband would appear. This romantic ritual, though lighthearted in nature, underscores the importance of mirrors as vessels of mystery and revelation during the Victorian era. It provided a sense of hope and excitement, a whimsical escape from the ordinary into the realm of the extraordinary. As we reflect on these captivating superstitions, we are reminded of the profound connection between the Victorians and their world, a world where every object, no matter how mundane, carried within it the potential for magic and meaning. Mirrors, with their ability to capture and transform reflections, stood as powerful symbols of the unseen forces that guided and shaped Victorian life. Our journey through the peculiar superstitions of Victorian England continues to reveal the rich tapestry of beliefs that defined this fascinating era. From the solemnity of covering mirrors to the allure of divination and the whimsy of romantic rituals, the Victorians' relationship with mirrors offers a glimpse into their intricate worldview. As we conclude this section, take a moment to appreciate how these beliefs, while seemingly peculiar, serve as a testament to human curiosity and the enduring desire to find meaning in the world around us. Thank you for joining us on this enchanting exploration of Victorian superstitions. Stay tuned as we continue to uncover more intriguing aspects of this captivating era in our next section. Until then, may your reflections be clear and your fortunes bright. Ominous omens and mysterious mirth. Welcome back, dear listener, to our ongoing exploration into the intriguing world of Victorian England's peculiar superstitions. Today, we delve deeper into the tales that tickled the Victorian fancy and kept them on their toes with an unsettling blend of mirth and mystery. As you settle into your favorite armchair, allow the gentle flickering glow of the candlelight to accompany you as we unravel the secrets of ominous omens and the curious rituals meant to stave off misfortune. In Victorian England, there was a profound belief in omens, with numerous everyday occurrences thought to portend either good or ill fortune. One such harbinger of doom was the humble shoe. Yes, the shoe, something we modern folks might not think twice about, held a special, almost mystical place in Victorian society. A single shoe found lying in the road was often seen as a dire warning that trouble lay ahead. Some believed it symbolized a journey cut short, a departure that was never to occur, or even a forthcoming death. However, this could be counterbalanced by the practice of hiding an old shoe in the chimney of a new home to ward off evil spirits and bring good luck. This quirky tradition perhaps provided a sense of comfort amidst the unpredictability of life. Equally captivating is the superstition surrounding the magpie, a bird that even today is often associated with bad luck. Victorians took this a step further, believing that seeing a solitary magpie was unlucky. This belief was immortalized in the popular rhyme, 1 for sorrow, 2 for joy, 3 for a girl, 4 for a boy, 5 for silver, 6 for gold, 7 for a secret never to be told. To counteract the misfortune of meeting a lone magpie, one was advised to greet the bird politely, or even better, to remove their hat in a show of respect. This simple act was thought to appease the spirits of fortune and transform bad luck into good. Our Victorian ancestors were also known for their peculiar beliefs surrounding mirrors. It was widely thought that a mirror could capture a person's soul. As such, if a loved one died, all mirrors in the house were covered to prevent their soul from becoming trapped. Likewise, breaking a mirror was believed to bring 7 years of bad luck. The origin of this superstition is thought to lie in the belief that mirrors not only reflect physical appearances, but also one's soul and health. Therefore, damaging a mirror was akin to damaging oneself. This belief in the power of reflection extended to other reflective surfaces, such as bodies of water, where seeing one's reflection foretold of impending misfortune. Another intriguing superstition revolved around the cuckoo's call. For the Victorians, the first call of the cuckoo in spring heralded new beginnings and the promise of rejuvenation, but it also carried with it a peculiar ritual. Upon hearing the cuckoo, one was to turn over any coins in their pocket for good fortune throughout the gay year. If the call was heard while standing on soft ground, it was considered a favorable omen, suggesting that fortune was about to take a turn for the better. Conversely, if the call occurred while on hard ground, it was thought to be a harbinger of hardship. Even the positioning of furniture was not exempt from the Victorian concern for omens. It was believed that placing a bed with its headboard against the north wall would bring ill health and possibly death. This belief was linked to the idea that the north was the direction of the afterlife, and sleeping with one's head pointed north could draw a person prematurely towards death. Such beliefs may seem arbitrary today, yet they provided a framework through which Victorians could exert some measure of control over their fate. The Victorians also had a fondness for fortune-telling, though it was often approached with a mix of skepticism and fascination. One quaint method of predicting one's future involved the use of apple peels. During the autumn harvest, young women would peel apples in one continuous strip and toss the peel over their shoulder. If the peel landed in the shape of a letter, it was believed to indicate the initial of their future spouse. This light-hearted ritual was typically carried out during social gatherings, blending the concepts of fate and entertainment in a manner that was quintessentially Victorian. In closing, as we wander through the corridors of time, peeking into the lives of those who lived in the ever-enchanting Victorian era, we begin to see how these superstitions were not mere trifles. They were born out of a desire to understand, to predict, and to influence the mysterious forces that govern daily life. Whether it was to avert disaster or to court fortune, these beliefs provided a bridge between the known and the unknown, drawing a delicate line between fear and fascination. Thank you for journeying with us through these tales of Victorian superstition, where the ordinary meets the extraordinary, and the past whispers secrets in our ears. Until next time, keep your eyes open for the omens and signs that dance through your own world, and perhaps take a cue from our Victorian friends. Tip your hat to a magpie the next time you cross paths. Word count awaiting continue. The Enigma of Victorian Mirrors. Welcome, dear viewer, to another fascinating segment as we delve even deeper into the peculiar superstitions of Victorian England. In this section, we shall explore the enigmatic beliefs centered around mirrors, those curious reflective surfaces that were more than mere household items to the Victorians. Mirrors held a mysterious allure, shrouded in superstition and intrigue, offering glimpses into a world that straddled the boundary between reality and the supernatural. Imagine yourself in a dimly lit Victorian parlor, the flicker of candlelight casting dancing shadows across the room. A grand mirror, its frame ornate with intricate carvings, hangs on the wall, silently observing all that transpires. For the Victorians, mirrors were not just objects to reflect one's appearance. They were portals to the soul, witnesses to the unseen, and harbingers of fortune and misfortune alike. One of the most enduring superstitions of the time was the belief that mirrors could trap souls. It was thought that when a person died, their soul might become confused and linger within the household. To prevent this, mirrors were often covered with heavy black cloths or turned to face the wall. This practice was intended to protect the spirit from becoming ensnared in the reflective surface, thereby enabling its journey to the afterlife. The idea of a trapped soul was a chilling thought, one that inspired both fear and reverence. The act of covering mirrors during a period of mourning became a widely observed custom. The heavy drapes not only shielded the newly departed spirit, but also served as a form of respect, a visual acknowledgement of the transition from the earthly realm to the spiritual. It was a poignant reminder of the thin veil that separated the living from the dead, and the power a mere mirror held in bridging or blocking that divide. But the Victorian fascination with mirrors extended beyond death. Mirrors were believed to possess the ability to foretell the future. Scrying, or mirror divination, was a practice some individuals engaged in, hoping to catch glimpses of what lay ahead. By gazing intently into a mirror, preferably by the light of a candle or the glow of the moon, it was said that one might see visions of future events or receive messages from the spirit world. This practice was often shrouded in secrecy, a mysterious ritual conducted in solitude, away from prying eyes. Yet, not all mirror-related superstitions were as ethereal. Some were rooted in the more mundane aspects of everyday life, underscoring the Victorians' desire to control their fate through symbolic actions. Breaking a mirror was considered an ominous sign, an act that would usher in 7 years of bad luck. This superstition, still prevalent today, likely arose due to the cost and craftsmanship of mirrors in that era. A broken mirror was a significant loss, both financially and aesthetically. To ward off the bad luck associated with a broken mirror, a series of remedies were proposed. One such remedy involved burying the shards deep in the earth, a gesture meant to neutralize the misfortune by returning the mirror pieces to the ground. Another suggested method was to submerge the shards in a flowing stream, allowing the water to cleanse them of ill fate. These rituals, though perhaps impractical, provided a sense of control in a world where the whims of fortune could feel as unpredictable as the weather. The relationship the Victorians had with mirrors also extended to everyday practices and social customs. For instance, it was believed that babies should not see their reflection before they reached a certain age. Allowing an infant to gaze into a mirror too soon was thought to invite bad luck or stunt their development. The rationale behind this belief remains elusive, yet it reflects the era's intricate tapestry of cautionary tales and protective measures. In social settings, mirrors were often used to anticipate romantic prospects. A young woman, eager to know the identity of her future husband, might engage in a playful ritual involving a mirror. By standing before a mirror at midnight, while eating an apple and brushing her hair, she hoped to catch a glimpse of her suitor's reflection over her shoulder. This charming yet eerie practice highlights the Victorians' blend of romance and mysticism, their desire to glimpse the future through the veil of the present. As we unravel these superstitions, we are reminded of the weight mirrors carried in Victorian society, a blend of fear, fascination, and reverence. They were revered for their beauty, feared for their potential to capture souls, and valued as conduits to the spirit world. Mirrors were both a source of comfort and a cause for caution, reflecting the complexities and contradictions of an era steeped in superstition. As we conclude our exploration of these mesmerizing beliefs, consider how the mirrors in your own life reflect not just your image, but the stories and traditions that have shaped generations. The next time you gaze into a mirror, whether to adjust your appearance or to ponder your thoughts, remember the rich tapestry of superstitions that once surrounded these reflective surfaces. They remain silent witnesses to our lives, much as they did in the flickering candlelit rooms of Victorian England. Thank you for joining us on this journey through time. Until we meet again in our next section, may your reflections be ever kind and your future as luminous as the glass through which you gaze.